Michael couldn't be in the movement, as Avis couldn't be in the movement because we were black. It's called racism. Then, of course, Jeanine, you might remember also when FDR became president, he was put on pressure by A. Philip Randolph when it came to the issue of racism. 1936, Jesse Owens wins 4 gold medals in Germany. Hitler wouldn't shake his hand, but guess what? He also wasn't invited to the White House because FDR wouldn't shake his hand. That's called racism. And in fact, I do recall also when Jesse Owens came home, there was a dinner for him in New York City. It was a dinner for him to celebrate him making America look good in Germany. He had to go through the kitchen, even though he was the honoree. It's called racism. Then, of course, we moved, Jeanine, to the 40s and to the 50s. And August 28th, we moved to the issue of Emmett Till being lynched in Mississippi. Brown versus Board of Education, overturned by the Supreme Court, 9-0 decision by the Supreme Court. Racism. Brown 2 in 1955. Racism. Montgomery bus boycott, December 1st, 1955. Racism. Then, of course, Albany, Georgia. Then North Carolina A&T. Desegregating lunch counters. Then, of course, March on Washington. And, of course, Selma and Birmingham. And then let's see, Charlotte and Atlanta. And let's see, Florida, Jackie Robinson. Of course, he didn't get to Major League Baseball until 1947. Damn, what was that? Racism. Who was the last team to actually hire a black player in baseball? Was it the Red Sox? Who was the last team to hire a black player in football? I think it was called the Redskins. And Major League Baseball had a rule you could only have 3 black people on a team at one time. Damn, Jeanine, that's called racism. Then, of course, let's see here. Fair Housing Act, 1968. Only reason it got passed because the king got assassinated on April 4th, 1968. It was filibustered for 2 years. What the hell we call that? Racism. What the hell is wrong with you? You're a white woman who went to law school. Matter of fact, let me help you out as a white woman who went to law school. Because guess what? The only reason you were able to go to law school is because of black people. Because when Title IX was passed in 1972, they said that was a provision of the Civil Rights Act. Because you know where Title IX came from? You're a lawyer. The Civil Rights Act of 1964. Please. If you are going to be on television, at least attempt to walk past a book. You don't have to open it up. I just think through osmosis, what's in the book might jump the hell out and knock you upside your head and give you some common sense about American history. So no, Jeanine, racism in America didn't end because of the Civil War. It continued, and it still continues to this day.
On her network.
I'm done.
No, that was good. That was good. I enjoyed your history class. That was good.
Jesus. I just can't.
That's terrible that she doesn't know.
The scary
Just
part about
idiotic.
I believe she knows. But she
that
doesn't.
audience, man, that Fox audience, eat it up.
Exactly. They don't want to acknowledge it.
Right. So Jeanine,
she gave us
be more than happy. Call a brother to come on the show. We can help you. I'll bring some books. I'll bring an Amazon gift card. Okay? I'll help you out. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. Now, a word from one of our Roland Martin Unfiltered partners. You've heard me say it before, and I will say it again. Write down this website, marijuanastock.org. That's marijuanastock.org. I'm going to tell you why it matters. Legal marijuana has grown to become a $9 billion industry in roughly 6 years. Forbes magazine predicts the market will continue to grow to nearly $50 billion in the next 10 years. So whether you like it or not, legal marijuana is a growing industry, and it is only going to get bigger. Now, if you're an investor, you get it. You look for business models that are easy to understand in industries that are trending up. Our friends at Transatlantic Real Estate made their business very simple. They buy land that supports legal marijuana operations and lease it to high-paying tenants. So you are investing in the landlord of a licensed marijuana farm. Stop working so hard for your money. Let your money start working for you by investing in the legal cannabis industry. You can invest as little as $300 up to $10,000. But you can't wait. This crowdfunding opportunity is only available for a few more days. They say that you either make things happen, watch things happen, or sit around wondering what happened. Don't be the person watching and wondering. Don't let another investment boom get away from you. It's time to make something happen for you, your finances, and your family. And don't forget my pro tip. To be included, you must complete and confirm your application. And be sure to complete the process. Go to marijuanastock.org. That's marijuanastock.org. Get in the game, folks. Do it now before time runs out. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video. Welcome to my panel, Amari Faulkner, a business development strategist and adjunct professor, Georgetown University. We have, of course, Greg Carr, chair of the Department of Afro-American Studies at Howard University. A. Scott Bolden, attorney, former chair of the D.C. Democratic Party. Gentlemen, I'll throw it all out to you. Again, I could have easily ignored Kanye, easily ignored all the things he had to say, but I feel it was important for somebody to break down facts to show you, again, how hypocritical he was, saying one thing and then sitting across the table with a smug look on his face, knowing all the cameras were there and knowing the media was going to cover all things Kanye said, and nobody was going to offer you the truth about Trump's policies.
I think that you did the nation a service, brother, by doing that. As far as I'm concerned, I think about his late mother. I was rereading her book, Raising Kanye, Dr. Donda West, who taught African-American literature at Morris Brown College and taught at Chicago State. And another ancestor must be sick to her heart to see a son who is so clearly mentally challenged, who's clearly got some health challenges, I would say, really just dissemble like that. The only other thing I would add is, I think that video, just watch it as one piece, that's a beautiful example of mental illness. Two mentally ill people talking to each other as if they don't both need severe intervention.
Yeah, it was.
I would probably say somewhat of the opposite. I think she would look down and be very proud of her son. And the reason why is he's sitting at the table. And I totally understand what you mean in regards to facts. But you're Roland Martin. I've been watching you on television probably for the last, 2 decades. You have the facts. That's your profession. Kanye West is an entertainer.
He was raised on 2 college campuses.
Here's why I will not let him be an entertainer off the hook.
That's right.
And
I.C. Davis was an entertainer. Ruby D was an entertainer.
Right.
Dick Gregory was an entertainer.
Right.
Harry Belafonte is an entertainer. Paul Robeson was an entertainer. Right. Sidney Poitier is an entertainer. John Legend is an entertainer. Lettucey is an entertainer. Common is an entertainer.
Yeah,
Kerry Washington is an entertainer.
That's right.
Erica Ash is an entertainer. I can go on and on and on and name you. Jeffrey Wright is an entertainer. Hold on one second, I'm not done. Don Cheadle is an entertainer. I can go on and on and on. These are individuals who at least will attempt to read.
And his mother was an academic. He was raised on
This is not a guy who...
Come on.
This guy, this is a guy whose mama was a college professor.
And took him to class.
Bruh, I mean, you let them off the hook.
No, something's wrong with that
thing. Off the hook. What I'm trying to say is that what I saw is a person that's sitting at the table. He brought up some very important issues to the President of the United States.
No.
The President of the United States talked, to your point, in Chicago about stop and frisk, and he said that wouldn't probably be good for the community.
What?
I think the stop and frisk.
Who said that?
Kanye said that.
Right.
He said it probably
But then he
wouldn't be good.
said, oh, I'm sorry to put you on blast.
Roland.
Here's my whole point. When you at the table, Kanye was not talking to him.
Right.
Kanye was talking to the cameras. At no point did Kanye say, Mr. President, in your budget, you're cutting mental health. Restore it. Mr. President, you're cutting education. Restore it. Mr. President, you came to my city 2 days ago and declared stop and frisk should be national policy. That, sir, is wrong. I'm here to tell you you should rescind that.
Roland, that's the most I've ever heard Kanye West talk before in my life. But let me.
Well, actually, I've heard him talk longer than that, and I still didn't hear it.
You gave over almost 30 minutes of your show to watch that. What I'm trying to say is, when I look at that, you can look at other young men around this country, other young black men in Chicago that may have similar dreams to Kanye, that you can actually make it to the point that you're in the Oval Office.
No,
I
see,
like this
see,
point. I like the point he made in regardless of how he felt and Jim Brown, how they felt in the Oval Office.
But here's the deal, though.
I like those types.
Okay, you can like how they felt in the Oval Office,
their opinion.
but if first of all, you can have your opinion. But when I'm opposite the very man who has policies that are completely opposite of what I'm advocating, and I'm just happy to be there.
Which is your opinion? My point is,
no, hold on, no. That's not opinion.
The entire segment, Roland, the entire segment was about you being right and him being wrong.
No, stop.
That's what it was all about.
Here's where you're wrong. My segment was about what the details are.
Right.
Can you refute a single detail I offered?
Yes.
Which one?
The details about, you didn't go into the fact about fathers being in the home and what that's doing to Chicago. You never talk one.
I'm sorry, hold. Did he bring that up?
Let's let me finish.
No, wait. No. I said. Hold up. You said I offered. Let me roll back what you just said.
Did you talk about
hold on
the fact that a former president is from Chicago?
Hold on one second.
His plan
One second.
to fix Chicago?
1 second. You just said. You offered your opinion what Kanye West said. I said I offered detailed facts to what he said. I then asked you to refute a single fact I laid out. You pivoted, because you can't do it, to something else. Now, I'm going to ask you again. I want you to refute a single fact I laid out.
Let me give you an example. When you went to Ford's, when you did your one Google search and probably went to the first article you saw on Google.
No, actually, I saw it 3 days ago when Ford actually put it out there.
Right. But my
Didn't lose $1 billion.
But my point is, he mentioned about Ford having the best cars, had a vision. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
What's absolutely wrong with that?
But I laid out the context that while you're saying Ford should have these great designs, Ford also is losing $1 billion due to the man across from him's tariffs. So maybe, can you think about that potentially? Ford has an issue with being able to do that. You can't have these great designs losing $1 billion, laying people off who look like me and you because of his tariffs.
When Henry Ford created the Model T, he lost a lot of money too.
Dude, you just missed what I just said.
Lost a lot of money.
You just missed what I said.
Because of the president.
I just said they're losing $1 billion because of the tariffs imposed by Trump. And you want to go to the Model T? Bro,
and then Roland,
it's
everything you talked about, every single thing that you talked about, it does not, you always blame the president. My point is, every budget, when you mentioned the education budget, the education, charter schools, that's not all federal money. The federal government is not the single most funder of all these things.
Okay.
You missed the fact that we have nonprofits, we have community leaders, we have businesses.
Hold up, bro.
The federal government is not the end-all, be-all.
Did you do your research?
Yes.
You did?
Yes.
Who created school choice as the Black Choice Initiative?
What does that have to do
No,
with
who created
I don't know the answer to that question.
Who created school choice is the Black Choice Initiative?
I don't have an answer to that
You
question.
looking at them. Don't you dare try to educate me on charter schools. Bruh, what you did
I didn't say about charter schools.
No.
I didn't say
You just mentioned charter schools.
What I said was...
What I'm trying to educate you on is...
You say because of the budget, it's Trump.
No. That's not what I said.
That's not
what I said. What I said is, if you are going to come into the Oval Office, sitting across from the president and laying out your grand vision, I'm saying the same man who's sitting there smiling at you, looking at you, cutting education budget, cutting mental health, putting more people in prison, getting rid of consent decrees.
Putting more people in prison?
Did you not see the Attorney General Jeff Sessions rescinded the order of Eric Holder to telling prosecutors you should go after the full penalty when trying to convict people? Scott, you're a lawyer. Am I right or wrong?
And a former prosecutor, and he certainly did. And the other point that you made that made a lot of sense had to do with these orders regarding reforming the police department based on prior police brutality. You know, on one hand, Roland, you have a half hour to break it down. You're right about the reporters not being there, but the reporters weren't educated. But let me give you my take. I watched this, and it was cringeworthy. I thought about my father, who was a retired judge. I thought about every civil rights leader who's ever saved this country, who's challenged the presidents, whether it was Martin Luther King or Roy Wilkins. And the point that each of them made, while the presidents in their time agreed with them, each president, including Delano Roosevelt, for example, told Roy Wilkins, I agree with everything you've told me. Philip Randolph. I agree with everything you've said about the American Negro with housing, health care, family, and so forth and so on. Now make me do it.
Go make me do it.
Now go make me do it. But it was cringeworthy because I thought about what a minstrel series this was and the power of this press conference being broadcast by Trump and watching this popular rap star perform with ignorance and with submission and with all that we don't stand for as people of color. Now watch this. Now, white America looks at that and defines us.
The press corps lad.
Listen to me. Defines us through the prism of what they saw with Kanye West. I am not Kanye West.
In fact,
I am educated. I'm at the top of the legal industry, and I don't represent that. And had I been at the White House, I would never go. But if I had been at the White House, Roland, I'm here to tell you that that litany of concerns would have been there. I would have read and researched and been prepared to challenge, and yet my invitation, if I wasn't allowed them to use me, that invitation would have been revoked.
And in fact, when I looked at social media and I saw all these conservatives, oh, that's right, Kanye is not on the plantation. He's speaking his mind. I know, and I've been knowing black conservatives my entire life, okay? Knowing them, friends with them, who embarrassed by that. It's not a question of do you have a seat at the table. The question is what you saying when you at the table.
Exactly.
Now, if you have a seat at the table and you speaking gibberish and nonsense, well, then all you've done is wasted the seat at the table.
That's right.
Can I respond to something?
Go right ahead.
Scott, I agree with you. When I watched that, what I thought about my 91-year-old grandmother. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. I'm a father of 4. I'm at the top of my field. I'm educated as well. I have 4 beautiful daughters that are home looking at me right now that are proud of their father. And my point is, what I'm trying to say is that my great-grandmother, she would have been proud of the fact that she's proud of me now because I have a seat at the table. And to your point, when you say you wouldn't go to the White House, that's a cultural shift that we've seen in the past couple of years of, athletes and other entertainers that say they don't want a seat at the table. If Dr. Martin Luther King,
you said athletes and entertainers. Who?
Can I finish?
No, name them.
We've had teams, the Golden State Warriors. We've had the Cleveland Cavaliers say that they will not go to the White House.
No. Hold on, stop. You just said athletes, entertainers, and a seat at the table. Going to the White House and holding a jersey is not a seat at the table. And in fact, you mentioned Philip Randolph. Let me go ahead and quote.
But can I finish my
hold on. I'm going to quote the table. I'm going to quote the table so you have context.
Sure.
Philip Randolph said this. At the banquet table of nature, there are no reserved seats. You get what you can take, and you keep what you can hold. If you can't take anything, you won't get anything. If you can't hold anything, you won't keep anything. And you can't take anything without organization. Explain to me having a seat at the table and you got nothing to say when you lay all these things out and literally the person across from you stands in direct opposition to everything you just said.
My great-grandmother, she wasn't Philip Randolph, but she was born in 1901. She couldn't read or write, but she can count money like no one else. And she left a legacy for her children. And I respect that woman from Memphis. And what I would say is,
still ain't answer my question.
She always told me,
the White House
she always told me, you always take the seat at the table because you have an opportunity. If Martin Luther King Jr. would have said the same thing about Lyndon Johnson, who many have said he was a known and open racist, I'm not going to sit across the table from him and work for the betterment of black people.
Hold up, bro.
Because
do I need to play some audio tapes
of what
MLK said when he was in the room?
He had a seat at the table.
No.
He was in the room.
See, this is the mistake you keep making. You keep focusing on I had a seat. No.
Not enough.
The issue ain't the seat. It's what you're saying when you're in the seat. You can't sit here and say what MLK did because when he went into the room, first of all, he had a plan of action before he walked in. Not only that, he knew the person across from him what his plan of action. Bruh,
if you think I'm trying to compare Kanye West,
well, hell, you brought MLK up.
But I am talking about the fact that during this process, the men to my right, we're chuckling and we're laughing but someone has access in the seat of the table. Roland, you have been in the White House.
Hold up. And guess what? When I went to the White House and asked, what's your plan for Chicago?
And Roland, I would expect
what do you think? But what do you,
I would expect that from
what
you.
was his answer?
I would expect that from you.
What
do you think I expect that from Kanye West?
What did I say was his answer was?
Strength.
Roland, I said
No. I told you what his
answer
answer was. How offended are you when I asked the question, what's your plan for Chicago? And he went, strength.
I'm not offended by that.
Well, Donald Trump is.
Is that a plan?
No, it's not a plan. What was Barack Obama's or George Bush's plan for Chicago?
Let's just look at
what was Rahm Emanuel's plan?
Real quick.
The President Obama's.
So you fine with the president saying my plan is strength?
No. I am fine with the fact that President Trump seems to be doing something to address this issue.
Hold up.
Hold up. Really?
One second. Where's the evidence?
Makes them right either.
This is the evidence.
No, 1 second. Where's the evidence?
This is the evidence. We are talking about it today. For the past 10 years.
That's the evidence?
For the past 10 years.
That's the evidence?
Bringing a spotlight.
Let me ask you a question. When has Donald Trump, since he's been president, even before when he was running, when did he go to Chicago to address the issues?
But you said while he was running?
Since he's been president, has Donald Trump gone to Chicago to specifically to community folks address the issue of violence in Chicago?
I haven't seen that yet, and that's something that I would say to the president if I was looking him dead in the face. I would like to see more.
Maybe
action.
Kanye should have brought it up. Go ahead, Greg.
I'll just say very quickly. There are two ways for black people to get into the Oval Office. One is by invitation because they somehow can be used by the person sitting there.
Or exploited.
Well, or exploited. The other reason is because they're unavoidable.
No, you left the third one.
What's that third one?
They worked there.
Oh, no, that's true. Oh, yeah, the butlers, yeah, no question. And in fact, what did Donald Trump say? The purpose of this meeting was lunch. But anyway, let's set that to the side. Your grandmother, your great-grandmother, 1901, Memphis, I'm from Nashville. About a year or 2 years after your great-grandmother was born, Booker T. Washington was invited to the White House by Theodore Roosevelt, an open racist. And the white press went apoplectic. The reason that he was invited was because Booker T. Washington was seen as the spokesperson for the entire race. He had been propped up by Cornelius Vanderbilt, Andrew Carnegie, so and so. It wasn't because Roosevelt somehow liked Booker T. Washington. He was the guy who was on the table to negotiate. Let's go back in time. Abraham Lincoln, Frederick Douglass invited to the White House. Why? Because Lincoln needed Douglass to help him win the war. Let's come forward in time. Another racist, Woodrow Wilson. When Monroe Trotter went to the White House, he blasted Wilson so tough that Wilson literally threw him out of the White House. Right. Let's come forward a little bit more to Franklin Roosevelt and now talk about A. Philip Randolph, who of course was there because he told Roosevelt, I'm going to shut Washington down with a march on Washington, which forced Roosevelt to sign Executive Order 8802, which opened up jobs in the war industry, which is why Kanye's people and people in Detroit and Oakland and Portland ended up in those cities, in those integrated jobs to get those jobs that are not there now because the industrialization collapsed them. But I want to talk about a woman, Mary McLeod Bethune. Ms. Bethune is in the Oval Office mostly through Eleanor Roosevelt because she said, when I come in here, I'm representing the entire race. I have an agenda. Kanye West was in that room for one purpose, to adorn Donald Trump's fever dream. That man has no business in the White House. He was there because Donald Trump could use him. He's a useful idiot. Jim Brown was in the room because Jim Brown hasn't criticized Donald Trump. But if you listen carefully what Jim Brown said, he said, I'm not asking for anything. We can criticize him on that. But when you look at his American stuff, you look at his attempt at gang intervention, he's an iconoclastic guy. But one thing's for sure, Jim Brown don't want nothing from Donald Trump. This other guy, Kanye West, he's a rapper, but if you look now, T.I. came out against him. The other hip-hop, Chance the Rapper from Chicago.
Actually, when they had the criminal justice reform summit there, they invited T.I. T.I. said, I'll come if I could bring Farrakhan.
Come on, brother.
They didn't invite him. But hold on 1 second. You said your 91-year-old grandmother from Tennessee, huh?
Yeah.
Got you. You ever heard of Dorothy Cooper?
Uh-oh.
No, I haven't heard.
Dorothy Cooper was a 96-year-old black woman in Tennessee who in 2012 election couldn't vote. You know why she couldn't vote? Because Republicans passed their voter ID law, and she had to have her marriage certificate, which she could not find because she got married by 50-plus years earlier. Now, how would your grandmother feel about that when the person he's sitting across from supports voter suppression?
Oh, and that's a really good question.
How would you feel that right now in Georgia, that the Secretary of State in Georgia, Republican Brian Kemp, 1.4 million registrations he's thrown out. Right now, some 53,000 voter registrations he's holding up, 70% of them African-American, Republican. How would you feel about the Republican Secretary of State in Missouri, who just got admonished by a federal judge who ran a commercial telling folk they had to bring their voter ID to vote, and the federal judge said that was a lie? How do you feel about a conservative Supreme Court who just affirmed a voter ID initiative in North Dakota, which said that you had to have a physical address, not a P.O. box, when some several thousand Native Americans, the folks who were here before white folks, they live on the reservation, don't have a physical address. And so here you got Kanye, because I didn't hear anybody bring up voter suppression. I didn't hear anybody bring up Trump. Why are you supporting policies, and why is your party and McDaniel, the GOP chairwoman, why are you supporting efforts to deny black folks the right to vote? Why did your Attorney General Jeff Sessions go side with the side of Texas when 5 federal judges ruled that their voter ID initiative disenfranchised 600,000 people who look like you and me and Latinos? That's the same person he hugged with, "I love you, guy." So you tell me this, if you're going to have a seat at the table, are you going to bring voter suppression up?
Well, we can start calling her Big Mama, because that's her name. We don't have to say great
that's
name.
right
So we can start calling her Big Mama.
Big Mama.
But let me first say this. Let me first say this. I hope no one misconstrues the fact that I am trying to compare
Not at all.
any of the men that you mentioned to Kanye West, because they're not. But let me tell you what Big Mama would have told me, and let me show you the example that she said. On voting day, she got away to the polls. She could not drive. She could not read. She could not write.
Did you skip what I said?
No, you asked me a question about what she would say. I'm telling you. I'm telling you.
Bruh,
Let
Dorothy
me finish.
Cooper wanted to go to the polls.
Can I finish?
Dorothy Cooper voted her entire life, but she was denied the right to vote because of Republican voter suppression efforts.
You asked me a question. I'm giving you the response of what my great-grandmother
Actually,
taught
no,
me.
but you didn't answer the question.
I'm answering the question. She made sure, and before anybody took her to the polls, months before, she made sure everything was buttoned up from her end, and she always told us.
Did you not just hear what I said? They said you need your marriage certificate.
Well, and
the woman got married like 60 years earlier.
Right.
What are you talking about?
Right. No,
do you know how many old?
We're not
do
blaming
you know
her.
how many old
I'm trying to
people
get to a
in
point, Roland,
Wisconsin, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida couldn't vote because they said, I can't find my marriage certificate.
I don't have a birth certificate.
Roland, the point I'm trying to make is we need to, just like Big Mama did, we need to focus the conversation on voter education so we can teach our young men and women the importance and the responsibility of your right to vote.
What we have
That's
to do
what we
is
need to do.
go after Republicans who say that you can't submit a certificate from the Bureau of Vital Statistics.
Right.
You need to submit the birth certificate with the raised seal. That's the only one we're going to accept. Bruh, don't try that. The reality is this here.
What?
If this woman, this sister, 96 years old, she said, I don't know what my marriage certificate is. Their deal is if you don't have the raised seal, that's the only one we're going to accept. Why would they only say the raised seal? Even though when you go get a copy, you're getting it from the state. They said, no, you can't use that one. We want the raised seal.
But this is a
They don't have access to it.
No, hold on.
Are you implying, just out of curiosity, I've heard you talk about this issue on your segment or not. Do you imply that these type of raised seals or photo ID and these laws are only just for black people?
No.
They only impact black people?
What I'm saying is the studies show disproportionately who they impact. What I'm showing you is that in Philadelphia in 2012, the head of the Pennsylvania Republican Party stood in front of the cameras and said Mitt Romney is going to win Pennsylvania because of voter ID. And what they did there was they said, okay, we'll offer you a free ID. Well, you know what the elderly had to do? The elderly had to go to the office, sign an affidavit to get the free ID, go back home, wait for it to be approved, go back to the office to pick up the voter ID, and then come back home. Now, how many elderly folks do you know have the ability to go from home, office, home, back office, home? Here's the reality. Republicans across this country, I can go down the line because I've been covering this, bruh, for the last decade, have systematically attacked.
And surgically.
In fact, we got a federal judge who ruled in North Carolina that they use laser-like precision to target black voters. Bruh, It's in the federal ruling that North Carolina Republican Party used laser-like precision to target black voters. So to answer your question, it's yes.
But look at Georgia, though. We haven't talked about Georgia yet. But look at the current Georgia law. The Georgia law, those 57,000 ballots that are kind of held up, and they can file a provisional vote on November 6th. The law in Georgia is that, okay, so you fill out your voter registration card, right? If it doesn't match letter for letter, comma for comma, on some prior government forms that the individual may or may not have filled out, whether it's the government, whether you got married or divorced, if it doesn't match, we're tossing it.
So if I put Roland Martin and not Roland S. Martin, it gets tossed. In fact, since you asked for the evidence, are they specifically targeting black people?
I didn't ask you.
Actually, you did. You said, am I? No, hold up. Let me roll it back. Are you implying that these efforts are targeting black people in North Carolina?
No.
They had email. No, hold up. That's what you. Is that not what you asked?
I asked you, do you think these issues are only targeted just to black people?
They are largely targeting us because you know why North Carolina? They got the emails. They asked the question, when do black people vote during early voting? They came back. 70% of black people vote in the first week of early voting. So you know what they did?
And they register on Sunday.
They said, we're going to slash.
They shut that down.
Hold up. Talking black people. They said, we're going to slash all early voting during the first 2 weeks, and we're only going to have one location in the whole county. They got the email. Then they said, we're going to get rid of voting on Sundays. I wonder why. Souls to the polls. the evidence is there. So this ain't even a debate. And this is certified Republican Party politics and then rules. I can go down the states. Iowa, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Arkansas, Texas, Florida. We can go down the line. This is a systematic effort, and what I'm trying to tell you is the person Kanye was sitting across from got no problem with it because he understands it's going to help his party. And all I'm simply saying is if you're going to have a seat at the table, you might want to bring that up.
And right now, at this point, I think we have a seat at the table, and I think it's important. It's important that we focus on being proactive.
Wow. Hold up. You know what? Hold up. We are being proactive. Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law filing lawsuits. NAACP Legal Defense Fund filing lawsuits.
What I meant by that is the fact that we need to continue to push for policy to protect elderly people.
Are you cool with voter suppression?
No, I'm not cool with voter suppression.
Are they wrong?
Who are they?
Is the Republican Party wrong for supporting voter suppression?
Roland, a Republican Party or Democratic Party cannot stop me from voting.
No, but you answered my question.
A Republican.
Hold up. Yes, they can.
I've been a vote. I'm not going to give away my.
Hold up. I'm going to ask you.
He just went down 4 or 5 different states where voter suppression, where a federal court has determined that they surgically did it against black people.
5 federal judges.
And they can stop.
We need to educate.
No. I'm going to hold up. That's a nice pivot. I'm good at that too. But I'm going to ask you a question again. Do you believe that the Republican Party in those states, they are specifically suppressing the vote?
Do I think? No, I do not think that they are specifically oppressing the vote.
So hold up. So even though a panel of federal judges wrote that was laser-like precision targeting black voters and overturned the voter ID law, you're saying that ruling was incorrect?
Roland, what I'm telling you is I do not believe that there are Republicans that are going down the books and saying, I don't want black people to vote. We're going to stop and make they're not going to be able to vote.
Oh, my God. Greg, go ahead. Hold up. Y'all go ahead. Hold up. I'm about to end. Hold up.
What makes Georgia worse, let me just say this. What makes Georgia worse is that the Republican nominee for governor is the Secretary of State. Who's pulling the ballots out and holding them and saying you can file a provisional.
And the consultant who gave to his campaign recommended getting rid of the 7 of the 9 voting sites in a county that was 70% black. But that just happened to be that just happened to be like kind of accidental, right?
That's a great message, Roland. I've been hearing you say this over and over every night.
No, it's fact.
Was this happening 8 years ago?
No, bro. Fact. Yes.
Oh, it has?
Bro, at 2008.
Were we talking about it?
Yes, we were.
Was the president talking about it?
Yes, he was.
What did he do about it?
Which one?
President Obama.
Yeah, see, wait a minute.
What did he do about it?
Hold up. Since you want facts.
What did he do about it?
2012, when in Ohio, Republican-led county boards extended voting hours with Republican counties and cut voting hours in Democratic counties, it was the Obama administration, his campaign, who sued the Secretary of State, sued Ohio, took him to court, and the Secretary of State of Ohio admitted that was wrong. Now you got your facts. Go ahead, Scott. Bruh, don't throw something out, bruh, if you ain't got the facts.
My point, Roland,
Scott, go ahead. These are local issues?
And this is how I fight.
Oh, my God.
Actually, this is voting is a state issue.
Go on.
Voting is a state issue, which is why.
Especially if they gutted the Voting Rights Act.
Well, this is exactly where I was going, Roland. Voting is a state issue, which is why it was Shelby County, Alabama versus Eric Holder, Attorney General of the United States. Why? Because they were trying to destroy the pre-clearance provision of the Voting Rights Act.
And the moment the Supreme Court threw it out,
under Obama, because
every single one of those southern states instituted massive voter suppression immediately.
Absolutely.
And I didn't say they waited 2 weeks.
No, they had the laws ready.
The next day.
Of the American legislative.
Those were also Republican-led legislatures.
Right.
Just so you know.
What I would ask you, as a professor, do you not think it would be a great idea for us to use a show as such, when you have a seat at the table, to educate young black men, young black women, about the importance of voting?
That's actually I got a good answer.
They are suppressing our vote.
Let me give you a very basic. Today is Thursday. In my Tuesday morning class, I asked students. I said, "Who's from Florida? Who's from Georgia? Are you registered to vote? And what's the status of your absentee ballot if you're not going home?"
Right.
You know what I heard? I heard a kid from Florida say he hadn't gotten his ballot yet. I heard 2 kids from Georgia say they haven't gotten their ballots yet. So to answer your question very directly, based on experience I had 48 hours ago, we're already beginning to see how they're going to try to steal this election. And I'm telling you, from students who are conscientious, Howard University registered thousands of students over the last couple of months. But I'm saying, and Georgetown was part of it. Some of those students, all the kids in D.C., American, George Washington.
My wife went to Howard Law, and she's been part of the process
what I'm saying is, not only do I agree with you, my little sample poll in the room began to reveal. And when they found out from each other, when they heard each other, they was like, "Oh, wait a minute, hold on." All those kids
they start to act, right?
Scott,
because they already acted. They sent for their
my point is when they didn't arrive, they started to act.
Scott, at the state level, county level, and even at the federal level, but at the state level, which we are trying to have more African Americans in governorships in the state houses that we lost. It makes no sense. We should always do voter education for our young people.
Which we have done.
And we continue to do it. We are experts at it, right?
Black folks real good at that.
But when we say,
them to the polls,
when we say and we message,
them to the polls,
they are suppressing our vote.
Yes,
I think that's
exactly.
a horrible
so
message.
What?
Right?
Hold on, stop. No, Scott, stop.
Of course it does.
Bruh, you cannot sit here and say, when we say they are suppressing the vote, it's sending a horrible message. The horrible message is suppressing the vote. How is it that you somehow can't even articulate that? It's like you were scared to say that's wrong. No. You were scared. You were saying, well, we got to tell our folks. Here's the deal. Fact, there were literacy tests. There were poll tests. They have always put barriers in black folks' way. And you know what we did? We hurdled the barriers and still fought to bring the barriers down. Right. But, bruh, don't sit here and act like we can't fight to bring the barriers down when we got evidence, undeniable evidence, where they have been targeting us because they want to shave the voters off here and shave them off here and shave them off here. Undeniable empirical data, and your answer is, well, can we just teach our people to go ahead and just go ahead and register? Come on, Doc.
You say you don't believe it's happening.
My point is this.
Is it happening? Yes or no?
Denial.
Are they putting policies in place
denial.
to suppress
own it.
folks from voting?
No,
Yes or no?
No one that I have met in the city of Memphis that I've talked to.
Oh, that's
people.
different.
I served overseas for 2.5 years.
Sure.
I had to do absentee voting.
Well, the military, sure.
I just transferred over from Tennessee to Virginia. It was an arduous process, but it was an arduous process that all Americans have to do, and it's our responsibility to understand those processes and help our youth and help elderly people.
That's why Septima Clarke in South Carolina started the Citizenship Education Project. While the NAACP, Legal Defense Fund, and everybody else was suing at the Supreme Court level, they were teaching Septima Clarke, the Freedom Schools in Mississippi. You got to learn. But here's the question you can never answer, brother. How many bubbles in the bar of soap? There's no way to answer that question. In other words, when you put an impediment before that it's absurd, you're not saying that they're not trying to suppress the vote.
I'm not saying that poll taxes before the Voting Rights Act was
But what Roland just explained you in Pennsylvania is the equivalent of a poll tax, brother. When an elder has to go back and forth several times who's on limited income, that's a poll tax.
Since you from Tennessee, I'm just gonna end it this way. Here, just go to my iPad. Democrats in Tennessee County allege voter suppression. The Tennessean, voter suppression in Tennessee should be on its way out. Tennessee Tribune, facts show voter ID laws limit turnout. Tennessee.gov, what ID is required when voting. Facing South, Tennessee students continue to fight against a discriminatory voter ID law. KnoxNews.com, voter suppression more destructive than rare fraud. Bruh, that's your state. And you had the nerve to sit here and say it's not existing? Bruh, come on. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We've been talking about voter suppression for quite some time about what's going on here, and we see what continues to happen, that this is, frankly, standard policy on the Republican Party. And so I was talking about that, and so this weekend, when they had the young black conservatives gathering, Deborah, which was interesting because they wouldn't let a lot of black media actually cover it, including us, about pulling the press credentials, but you want to reach black folks. And so one of the folks who was on social media talking about that was Robert Maxwell, Deputy Communications Director for the Arizona Republican Party and also Director of the Arizona Black Conservative Federation. And so he wanted to challenge me to this conversation. I said, fine. You want to do that? Come on, so we can have that conversation. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, one of our partners here, Trans Real Estate. If you're looking for a hot new investment opportunity, I have two things I want you to think about: legal marijuana and crowdfunding. Now, you just let that sink into your head for a second. Our friends at Transatlantic Real Estate have created a unique opportunity for everyday investors like you to get in the game for a minimum of $300 up to $10,000. Look, you get in where you can fit in. Now, typically, it takes millions, if not billions, to invest in the legal marijuana industry, and it can be pretty risky trying to establish market share. However, Transatlantic Real Estate is taking a different approach. They buy the land that supports marijuana grow operations and lease it to licensed, high-paying tenants. Now, imagine being a landlord to a licensed marijuana farm. With the prospects of further legalization and changing public perceptions about marijuana, some investors could end up making some serious money over the next several years. The best part is they're using crowdfunding so you can get in now before they take the company public. If you want to find out more information, go to marijuanastock.org. That's marijuanastock.org to get in now. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video. So Robert joins us right now. So Robert, we saw the legal decision in Georgia today where the judge refused Brian Kemp's goal when it came to that particular injunction. We are still seeing what is taking place in many other states. This is real simple. Why aren't more black conservatives, black Republicans saying anything, calling out its party when it comes to the constant voter suppression they're engaged in?
Well, I think we should make it clear that voter suppression, what you guys call voter suppression on the left, we call voter integrity. And actually, black conservatives are doing a lot to make sure black votes are not suppressed. And what they're doing is they're taking a stance against illegal immigration and voter fraud in order to do so.
Got a question, Robert? Got a question for you. It's real simple. Real simple. How much voter fraud have we seen? What's the numbers?
Secretaries of states in liberal places like California won't even comply with President Trump's voter integrity commission.
Really?
So we actually don't know what the number is.
1 second, Robert. Robert, you said liberals?
2.8 illegal immigrants in this country, and that is not doing anything great for black votes and empowering the black vote.
Robert, you didn't answer my question. You actually said liberals, secretaries of state. I recall Chris Kobach was the co-chair of Trump's voter commission, correct?
If you say so.
Not if you say so, it's a fact. Chris Kobach was the co-chair of Trump's voter integrity commission, correct?
Okay.
Chris Kobach is the Secretary of State of Kansas, correct?
Okay.
Chris Kobach wouldn't even turn over his voter rolls. So you're complaining about so-called left states, but Chris Kobach, a Republican, Secretary of State of Kansas, who is running for governor of Kansas, would not even turn over his own data. So why aren't you criticizing the Republican secretaries of state who also would not turn over their data?
Because the Democrats have created a political environment to where solutions are not practical. If Kobach does that, if he complies with President Trump's very modest and ambitious goal to make sure that voter integrity is upheld, what do you think would have happened to him during his run for governor? You're smart, I'm smart, so let's not pretend that this one anchor statement on this one Republican somehow means that President Trump's voter suppression concept was moved.
Really? Let me ask you a question. Robert, one second. Robert, one second. Robert, got a question. Robert, I got a question.
Not giving me a chance to speak.
Robert, I got a question. Robert. I got a question.
Do you agree that illegal immigrants voting is bad for the black community?
Robert.
Will you concede that does not empower black votes?
Robert, this is what I know. A panel of Republican lawyers did their own study of voter fraud and found virtually none.
Really, virtually none. Texas Democrats just last week. There's an investigation in the Texas Democrats just last week. They were sending voter registration ballots to illegal immigrants with the citizen box already checked.
Robert,
that is not empower black votes.
Robert, here's what's amazing.
Let's not talk about voter suppression, which is a smokescreen used by liberals in order to scare and antagonize minorities.
Well, so if it's a smokescreen by liberals, why is it that when former North Carolina Governor Pat McCrory invited General Colin Powell to North Carolina, General Colin Powell, lifelong Republican, chastised McCrory to his face from the stage and chastised North Carolina Republicans for passing an onerous voter ID, voter suppression bill? That was Republican Colin Powell. How do you respond to that?
Because Republican Colin Powell is just as big of a rhino as any of these other never-Trumpers who do not want to see President Trump's America First agenda.
Robert, here's the problem, Robert. Robert, here's the problem. Robert,
I want to for more than 15 seconds, Roland.
Robert, I'm gonna let you finish, but I want to give you facts. Colin Powell did this before Trump ran.
He did what before Trump ran?
No, Robert, I'm gonna let you talk, but I want you to have your facts straight. He called out Pat McCrory before Trump even ran. So you can't accuse Colin Powell of trying to thwart Trump's agenda when he called it out before Trump even announced. Now, how do you respond?
He called what out? Specifically,
he called out the onerous voter suppression bill that was passed in North Carolina that a federal court struck down and said that was discriminatory intent and that was a laser-like targeting of black voters. Are you defending that bill?
No, I'm defending the concept of voter suppression. Now, I know this is what you're going to try.
You're defending voter suppression?
Finish talking.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I can't wait to hear this one.
Let me finish. You're trying to pigeonhole me into one specific policy.
No, I'm not. I'm asking you a question, but go ahead.
I'm not a Carolina guy. All I know is the national talking points of voter suppression is not framed properly because African American votes are not empowered by illegal immigrants voting. You want to talk about voter suppression? Let's talk about illegal immigrants voting. Let's talk about restoring voter integrity into our elections, and let's not have dead people vote.
Robert,
in California for the past 50 years, right?
Robert,
so that's for genuine, legitimate discussion of voter integrity, not voter suppression. Let me tell you a couple of other things about voter suppression. Voter suppression is a term of art that was created by Democrats over the past decade in order to scare African Americans and make them think that Republican policies evoke Jim Crow-era regulations on voting. That is just patently false. In fact, I saw your little show yesterday.
What was patently false? I'm sorry, Robert. Robert, 1 second. What was patently false about North Carolina?
Voter suppression laws that you're talking about are voter ID laws. That's not voter suppression, Martin. All that is voter integrity. And in fact, 77% of non-whites support voter ID laws. So
Robert,
let's get the facts straight before you speak. I'm going to let you speak. I just want you to get the facts.
Robert,
right? 77% of non-whites support voter ID laws.
Robert, this is the lead paragraph in a story from May 15, 2017. The Supreme Court on Monday refused to revive a restrictive North Carolina voting law that a federal appeals court has struck down as an unconstitutional effort to, quote, target African Americans with almost surgical precision. Robert, we also know that a state senator in Wisconsin admitted that the effort by Republicans in Wisconsin to raise the voter fraud flag was a joke. In fact, this Republican state senator in Wisconsin said he then hired his own people to go out to find voter fraud, and what he found were examples of voter fraud by Republicans. This is a Republican state senator who served more than 30 years. Also, 5 federal judges in Texas ruled that the voter ID law in Texas had discriminatory intent. A federal judge a week ago ruled that the Missouri Republican Secretary of State should not be running an ad saying that folks should be bringing their ID when they didn't have to. That happened just a week ago. Now,
that's
now 1 second.
That's voter integrity.
Oh, that's voter integrity.
And let's talk. And let's get back on Texas. Like I just mentioned, and you were shockingly silent. Texas, literally, Democrats have been sending ballots with the "Are you a citizen?" voter registration cards with the "Are you a citizen?" already checked. You should look that up yourself if you haven't done the research.
Here's my question:
There's an
how
entire
many
investigation into this?
Okay.
Texas Democrats. Oh, by the way, this past primary that we had here in Arizona, the Democrat Maricopa County recorder was disastrous. 6 hours waiting in line. People had to vote. In fact, some of the polling places. No, let me finish. Some of the polling places, Republicans showed up and they didn't even have a ballot there in their name. So what does this show us?
Oh,
this
really,
shows
Robert?
us that voter suppression and concept of voter suppression or a voter incompetence happens along party lines.
Hey,
That's
Robert.
Something that Republicans try to do in order to disenfranchise
Robert.
the African community. However, people like
That's
yourself,
a lie, Robert. You know you're lying.
do what you're paid to do, and you're essentially trying to create and invoke a certain fear in the black community.
No, I'm not. I'm stating fact.
Your votes.
Here's a fact, Robert. Robert, here's a fact. Here's a fact. A clerk.
2 states where Democrats are the ones doing and guilty of voter suppression. So
answer this,
I don't know,
Robert.
you tell me, Democrats or Republicans?
Robert, answer this.
And Republicans are the only ones trying to bring integrity back to
No,
voting.
no, you're not.
Voter ID laws do that.
Hey, Robert, this is real simple. Robert, let me give you some facts. A clerk in Wisconsin stated in 2016 she purposely removed an early voting location from a college campus to a far-out place because she said too many young folks vote Democrat. In 2016, Robert, a federal judge called in Scott Walker, the governor of Wisconsin, to say why were they dragging their feet on delivering voter IDs. That's a fact. Robert, what's amazing to me is you want to throw out, illegal immigrants and how it's hurting black voters. Hold up. One second, Robert. Robert, you don't have, Robert, you have no evidence. You have literally no evidence. And the problem is, at Republicans, this is by design. Robert, we can go down the line. Florida, Mississippi. I'm not done. Florida. We just had the NAACP just won a case in Shelby County where Republicans were trying not to certify folks who registered to vote. So you're defending nonsense. The fact of the matter is you have black Republicans who have far more credibility than you. Black Republicans who actually have been, frankly, black Republicans longer than you've been alive, who say, you know what our party is doing is wrong. And for some reason, you literally are defending folks who are suppressing the vote, but then Republicans run around and say, oh, we voted for the Voting Rights Act. We voted for the Civil Rights Act. How can you, as a self-respecting black man, defend folks who are trying to actually keep others from voting?
I'd like to ask you the same question. How can you, as a self-respecting black man, encourage illegals to vote, which highly saturates the voting pool and makes black votes functionally useless? And you have no proof about how in Texas, Democrats are sending ballots with their citizenship box already filled in. I've heard no response from that. Additionally, I told you about what's taking place in California, where voter registration in some counties are at 100%.
Well, guess what, Robert? The reason we have attorney generals.
I don't understand how you, as a self-respecting black.
The reason we have attorney generals, who also investigate those things. And all I'm saying is, show the proof. But you know what, Robert? Hey, if you are more than happy, with voter suppression, that's fine. But I can guarantee you this here. Black people, actually, but you say doesn't exist. Robert, this is real simple. Robert, this is real simple. Robert, this is real simple. I'm going to go down the line. This is the last one for you, Robert. This is the last one. I'm going to go down the line. Missouri, Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Texas. You even had in Maine, where Republicans in Maine got rid of same-day voter registration when the citizens didn't even ask for them to do it. And what happened? The next year, the citizens put it back on the ballot, and then they said, no, what you did was wrong. So how is it? How is it that as a party, you keep trying to deny folks the right to vote? Go ahead, your final comment.
And let's talk about that. Let's talk about what citizens want. 77% of non-whites are in favor of voter ID laws.
Got it.
Why? Because they want their vote to count as Americans who's helped build this country. So my question to you is, why do Democrats not listen to their constituents and just accept voter ID laws? In fact, in 2002, voter ID laws were going to get passed as a part of the Help America Vote Act, and it almost got killed because Republicans tried to add voter ID laws to it, because Democrats don't want voter ID laws. Why? Why do you think that is, Roland? Because they have illegals voting. And I don't understand how you, as a black man who's supposed to be so pro-black, you're shocked that I didn't know who you were because you're so pro-black. You can't be so pro-black if you're letting illegals vote, which is saturating the black market. That's not empowering the black vote, Roland.
All right,
you
Robert.
know that.
Robert, it's all good. I thank you for coming on. You repeated the same talking points several times. I appreciate it, but it's a joke to somehow saying, oh, illegals are voting. But again, Robert, I have you back on. I'm about to talk to Ben Jealous right now. No, Robert, I'm going to have you back on. But do me a favor, go find some new talking points, because you keep repeating the same one over and over again. It's sort of redundant. But Robert,
I'm not sure if you're or if you're just ignoring it.
No, I'm not ignoring it, but I appreciate it, Robert. Thanks a bunch. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Because guess what? We come back live January 3rd. The blackest show on all of digital, cable, and broadcast. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Hello. Y'all want some of this? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications. There's only one show out here, folks, in the digital world that's focused on you. Because here's the piece. I ain't afraid of Fox News. Come back live January 3rd. Now, y'all keep hearing me talk about these crazy-ass white women, and guess what? Now we have another crazy-ass white woman who just cannot mind her own damn business, this time at a Target in Tennessee. 3 black women were talking, and this white woman felt the need to check these sisters. You know how that went. Watch.
I said, Tara, try this on, because this looks like something Eartha. She said, I don't want to be compared to Eartha Kitt because she had sex.
This is what you guys do.
That's what I'm asking. That's why I'm asking. What
this woman any longer, please? I want us to stop engaging with this woman.
Let's stop. Let's have finish with the head.
Let's stop engaging with her, please. Let's stop.
She can't hear.
Thank you.
That's very clear.
I understand you're an abuser. I understand you're abusive. I understand you're abusive and you make up lies on the spot. I understand.
I understand.
Please stop talking to this lady.
I mean, her question. Yeah, we have a problem.
No,
yes, ma'am. We were standing here talking, and I made a reference to Eartha Kitt. No,
I can't.
Ma'am, I made a reference to Eartha Kitt, and my friend said, I don't want to be compared to Eartha Kitt because she had sex in the movie with. And then she said,
okay, I know you're trained on lying. I know you're trained liar.
Yeah,
I know you're trained liar.
I want them to move on.
Good job. We are together. You're perfect for the court system. You guys should all go to court.
But now we're perfect for the court system.
Because you're trained liars.
All right, I'm going to start with you, Lon. You're in PR. Here's the deal. These companies, people like Target might need to put a sign up, crazy-ass white women. Don't bring that bullshit in our store.
I'm not going to. First of all, she's got NASA on it. I mean, somebody should talk about that, right? That's a big sign. NASA, okay, number one. But definitely, I think corporations and I think stores have to do a better job now because everybody's paying attention. I mean, this is going on almost every other day. So I think from a corporate standpoint, a corporate responsibility standpoint, communications, we need to start looking at what we need to do to kind of prohibit this kind of activity. But it's a bad look for Target. There's no question about that.
Here's the deal, Sam. I'm telling you right now. Now these sisters were real nice, and I'm telling you,
Roland,
one of these white folks gonna get knocked out by somebody if they decide to just jump in folks' conversation. I mean, I'm telling you, it's going to happen.
I'm a little confused. I'm confused about a lot of things. But was this woman an employee of Target, or was she a customer?
She was a customer.
These three sisters were talking amongst themselves, and this white woman jumps in a conversation to check them.
Just a customer.
See?
Yeah.
Well, you know, there's a liability there that Target's going to have when something jumps off, and it's going to be in Target. I don't know it's going to happen, Roland. I hope you have the camera there when it happens. It's going to happen.
Greg, hashtag team whip that ass will be showing up. I'm telling you.
Roland, brother, maybe NASA means not a safe activity. They should give them shirts to every white person. But we're laughing, but here's the point. Here's the underlying issue that's very scary. You notice how quickly she moves to say, I'm going to call the law. This is perfect for court. You're trained liars. And this goes back to the previous segments, these white supremacists, as their demographics shrink, are going to look to the courts as the place for last refuge. And so any white person, if we look at the history of America, any white person is a deputy officer of the law. This is the paddle rollers, this is the slave catchers, this is the random people during Jim Crow. These are the people who stand aside when our people get murdered in malls and burnt in Alabama or Chicago. These are the people who feel like, because I'm white, I can always evoke the law and I can police you at any given moment. But, to the last thing to your point, when we do go off and they ignore that that's not a safe activity, keep messing with us, this country is going to have to decide whether or not it's going to be governed by the rule of law and humanity, or it's going to degenerate into violence. Because you're right, somebody going to get their ass whipped.
Yep.
I'm telling you. I mean, look, and here's the piece. Again, black folks trying to be calm. You heard the one sister say, we're not going to give her any time. But I'm telling you, you're just going to hop in my conversation, and then you're going to castigate me for something I wasn't even talking to you. I'm telling you right now, I keep warning all these crazy white women and white men. Y'all better mind your own damn business, because this is not the generation of black people who gonna kneel down and pray for y'all.
Roland, it never was the generation, brother. You made me pull out my history book, my Alpha history book today, brother. I pulled out Brother Charles Wesley. I'm reminded of Paul Robeson, who played football for Rutgers. Brother Paul Robeson, who was playing football when one of them white boys stepped and took all his fingernails off his hand. And on the next play, Robeson, who had been trying to be civil, lifted that white man over his head and was getting ready to break his spine when the coach said, blew the whistle and said, Robeson, you made the team. We will be pushed too far, brother. We've always been too far.
Absolutely. So I'm telling. So every time one of these videos happen, we gonna run it, and I'm keep warning these folks, because look, black folks are not playing this game where our car is barely in the walkway. We can't sell lemonade. Matter of fact, I saw somebody sent me a story today. What was it? A black woman was eating lunch somewhere, and they called the cops on her. Wait a minute. She was eating lunch in a university classroom.
Oh yeah, the student. Yeah. They even had a young lady who was sleeping in the student lounge, napping. We're in final exams now. Right. Kids do that. And the other students called the police on her because she had fallen asleep in the same lounge that they were sleeping in. Again, policed while black, brother.
Yeah. I mean, these folks think this whole sense of entitlement has gone too far. It's basically they feel they're entitled, and we pull the sheets back, and we're just going to do anything, and it's our time. That's the problem we're dealing with.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment. As we transition into the holiday season, this is the time, of course, when we start thinking about giving and sharing. Sometimes the best gift that you can give someone is an opportunity that could potentially change their lives financially. That's why our friends at Transatlantic Real Estate have created an investment opportunity for the everyday investor. It involves legal marijuana and crowdfunding. Now, look, black folks have been impacted by marijuana in a negative way. Now, the issue is it is legal in so many areas. It is one of the fastest growing industries in the country. Yeah, And we also know that crowdfunding makes it easy to be an early investor of an opportunity. It's a no-brainer. But it also gets even better. Transatlantic Real Estate is different, and they have a business model that is simple to understand. They buy land that supports marijuana grow operations and lease it to licensed, high-paying tenants. Now, here's the piece. You're investing in a landlord of a licensed marijuana farm in a high-growth market. And for a limited time, you can invest as little as $300 up to $10,000 before the company goes public. And here's some more good news. They have recently extended the offer, which means you still have time if you take action now. Now, keep in mind, you must complete and confirm your application to participate. So be sure to complete the process. And don't spend all of your money over the holidays and end up with empty pockets. Instead, get a return on your investment. You could also consider making an investment for someone special. How's that for a holiday gift? I say it's a good idea. Now, to get started, go to marijuanastock.org and marijuanastock.org for you to get in the game. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it. All right, y'all. So, look, we're on this show. We talk to all kinds of black people. We're not afraid of any subject. And so I get a kick out of these crazy, deranged black conservatives, not like Derek. But the other folks who are afraid that I'm going to bite them because, you know, it's just too hard. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. I want to thank one of our newest supporters. I'm going to talk to you about right now. If you're looking for a hot new investment opportunity, I have two things I want you to think about: legal marijuana and crowdfunding. Now, you just let that sink in for a second. Our friends at Transatlantic Real Estate have created a unique opportunity for everyday like you to get in the game for as little as $300. Typically, it takes millions or billions to invest in the legal marijuana industry. Some folks, we're going to leave that alone. But and it can be pretty risky trying to establish market share. However, Transatlantic Real Estate is taking a different approach. They buy the land that supports marijuana grow operations and lease it to licensed, high-paying tenants. Now imagine being a landlord to licensed marijuana farm with the prospect of further legalization and changing public perceptions about marijuana. Some investors could end up making serious money over the next few years in this multi-billion-dollar industry. The best part is they're using crowdfunding so you can get in now before they take the company public. If you want more information, go to marijuanastock.org. That's marijuanastock.org. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video. So check this out. So today I got this email from Maria Sliwa, and so she has a PR agency, and so this was the email, y'all. Pull it up. America's sheriff and straight talker David Clarke is available to comment on the midterms. All right, let's talk. So I said, Jackie, send him an email. So Jackie, our booker, sent him an email and they said, oh, no. David Clarke, he prefers talking to conservative media. Bruh, what you scared of? Now, y'all, first of all, the email came to me. Don't send me an email saying you want to talk to me about the midterms, and then when it's a brother, you don't want to talk. And so then I went on Twitter and said, here's David Clarke being a snowflake. And then he's like, oh, there's Roland Martin being a lib, calling people names. Y'all, he calls people names all day, every day. Anytime. I just love the crazy folk. Because first of all, he all had no cattle. Right. Okay? Right. Because somebody tweeted he a rhinestone cowboy. That was pretty damn funny. But what gets me is, I've had him on the show twice before. Yeah. He goes, I prefer having discussions about facts, and about research, like plagiarizing your thesis. Fact. But what kills me is, this is sort of like Candace Owens and the rest of these folks who want to run their mouths trashing black people, but they don't want to come talk to black people.
Well, they want to go where they're celebrated, and they're celebrated on Fox News. I mean, that's why it...
And Fox News won't even call me.
Of course they're not. They don't want you.
Matter of fact, they'll call all four of y'all before they call me. They're like, nah, we ain't calling that brother.
Right, they want certain type of black people who they could point to and say, see, he agrees with us. And it's so disheartening seeing black person after black person fall for that. You know what I mean? Because, you know, you look at Candace Owen, you look at Jason Whitlock, who I watched your interview, and you see that, like, it looks like he's auditioning for Fox News. You know, and you know.
He's on Fox Sports 1.
Yeah, but they want to. He's auditioning. He has a spot on Fox News after he finishes with FS1. And the thing about it is, you know, they don't understand how they're playing themselves. You know, I question if they even believe everything that they say, or that they know that there's the audience who will pay them to do what they're doing, which is even worse.
And Spencer, what kills me is I would dare say that I have more black conservatives on this show than even Fox News. I'm talking about on a consistent basis.
So now, I'm going to defend Sheriff Clarke.
Uh-oh.
Right? I'm going to defend Sheriff Clarke. Because I remember the time where we were in the studio and it wasn't a plan for him to be on, and you were able to get him in the studio, and he came in and you kind of lit it up.
No, actually, no. Actually, I was nice that day. that wasn't even like hitting them with with a fire poker. No, I backed off that day, and folks were like, Roland, you went easy on a brother. But see, here's my biggest deal. And so I appreciate whether it's Derek, whether it's Malik, whether it's Shannon, whether it's Brandon, Eugene, a whole bunch of black conservatives who say no. If we gonna talk, and it's gonna be a family conversation,
Right.
But see, my issue with the folks like David Clarke and Candace Owens and some of these other fools, they are in a sense dancing in front of white people.
No question.
Yeah.
And see, that's my issue.
Right.
See, don't tell me you trying to reach black people, but you won't talk to black people.
Yeah, right.
Just like Donald Trump.
Right.
Donald Trump, Laura Ingraham asked him, is he gonna have any inner city rallies? What that means is, are you going to go talk to black people? He goes, yeah, they're on the schedule. We called and checked. No, it's not. He has no intentions of talking to black people. He loves talking about black people to white people.
Right.
But he won't come talk to black people. He won't sit down for interviews with black people. He won't sit down with black-owned media.
Yeah.
He won't have these conversations.
But he did talk to Kanye, though, didn't he?
Yeah, he talked to Kanye, right. Him and Jim Brown. And I think Jim knows he was there, maybe. But again, that's what you have it, Teresa. You have this game being played. And when I say to a Sheriff Clarke, man up and walk in, have a debate. Because here's the piece. I ain't afraid of Fox News. I ain't afraid of Sean Hannity. I ain't afraid of Laura Ingraham. I'm not afraid of Martha McCallum, Tucker Carlson, Lou Dobbs, Kennedy, Outnumbered, all of them. The 5, the 7, the 9. It don't matter. Matter of fact, I got no problem that if it's 10 of them and just me, that's unfair for y'all.
I think Roland, you have to.
Bruce Lee.
Roland, you have to.
I'm going to be like Neo from the Matrix.
I'm ready. But Roland, you also have to understand where the media climate is. As you well know, when some of the black community, when we listen to, the show and the podcast, we know we can go to Roland Martin's show and we can hear facts, right? We can hear history, we can hear significance. And I think, again, when Ethan was talking about the celebration of African Americans, that's why Candace Owens and some of those other characters go on Fox News and they're talking the way they are, which it looks like they're dancing, is because that they're one, yes, they are being financed, but two, even when I believe Candace came to Philadelphia, it's my hometown, and she was literally probably 2 blocks away from the hood when she had a bunch of people protesting her out of a restaurant, right? And she literally looked like a dart, right? Didn't say anything, hiding and everything else, like, oh my God, I'm in almost the black community, what to do? First thing she did was go on Twitter, so I mean, but there was no, and it literally probably was like 5 people exiting her out the restaurant, so it wasn't even big.
She can't handle the heat, because outside the White House on Friday, she accused me of calling her Uncle Tom and Coon. That's why she blocked me. And I said, Candace, I blocked other people for using those words. In fact, if when Umar Johnson was on my show on TV1,
that was a good
when he called Eugene Craig a coon, I said, oh, hell no. You're not going to use racial slurs on my show against another black person.
Got it.
Not going to happen. And I said, Candace, show me the proof.
Right.
Show me the proof. I'm still waiting because she can't find the proof. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. All right, folks. Today, the Congressional Black Caucus dropped a new video targeting Donald Trump when it comes to his statement, what the hell do African Americans have to lose for voting for him?
African American communities have suffered. What the hell do you have to lose by trying something new like Trump?
Donald Trump and leaders of the Congressional Black Caucus met at the White House.
We brought him this book, 130-page policy document.
We wanted to answer for him the question of what do we have to lose?
The Southern Poverty Law Center, a nonprofit that tracks extremist groups and hate crimes, has reported a rise in bias-related attacks.
They were people protesting very quietly. I think there's blame on both sides. Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of a bitch off the field?
Words of advice to law enforcement.
Please don't be too nice.
Trump's rhetoric, the nature of the campaign, even the slogan, Make America Great Again, has given license to hate.
Attorney General Jeff Sessions is ordering prosecutors to go after the toughest possible sentences, including those with mandatory minimums.
The new Trump administration plan would raise the rent for people living in public housing.
The Trump administration today reversed an Obama-era policy that encouraged colleges to consider race as a factor in admissions.
His presidency is a step backwards for race relations in America.
What Trump did was end $7 billion in Obamacare subsidies to insurance companies, payments designed to help them discount prices for low-income customers.
You are talking about millions of people losing benefits, not just the 30 million that would lose insurance, but even people with employer-based insurance.
It would repeal the insurance subsidies that are helping millions of Americans afford insurance. It would end the Medicaid expansion, and it would allow higher premiums for people with pre-existing conditions. What about that improves health care?
The decrease of the black unemployment rate has slowed under Donald Trump.
Americans earning less than $75,000 would face substantial tax increases.
Trump has a program or policies that are not benefiting African Americans.
This commission was set up specifically to manufacture evidence of voter fraud in order to suppress the votes of minority voters.
I don't think that we can trust our president when it comes to protecting voting rights.
President Trump has only been in office for 9 months, and he's nominated a number of nominees. 4 of them have been found unqualified.
90% of the nominees are white, 80% are male.
Some of them are far right. The person who had on his blog linked to white supremacists.
He picked the one guy who has specifically written that a president, in fact, should not be the subject of a criminal investigation, which the president is right now.
Donald Trump's lies just passed a milestone, crossing the 2,000 mark.
3,000. 4,000.
This Russia thing with Trump and Russia is a made-up story.
I believe there was collusion.
Donald Trump obviously is in debt to Vladimir Putin.
What the hell do you have to lose?
Dee, we have to answer the question, what has Donald Trump done for black folks?
Let's see. As a graduate of an historically black college and university, Fisk University, he did something that President Obama could have done but didn't do.
That is?
By forgiving
$322 billion loan.
$320 million loan.
Okay.
for the schools that were affected by Katrina.
Okay.
And unemployment under President Trump, not only has minority unemployment plummeted, but the unemployment gap has narrowed 3% for African Americans and 0.8% for Hispanics.
What did Trump do for that black unemployment?
So for those are two things that he's done for blacks, and not
but
two
what
things.
Targeted program did he do to reduce unemployment for people, for black and brown people? Targeted, that caused that reduction.
I can't tell you exactly what. I don't have that in my notes, but in regards to black Americans, in regards to Americans, period, for me and my family, in terms of our safety, I do feel somewhat safer.
What safety?
In the building of the wall or making sure that and keeping America first, that, in my opinion, has resonated with me.
No. Hold on.
America first.
Hold on, Scott. Hold up. How are we safer? Because when we say safer, how are we safer when you have an attorney general?
But you can't.
Hold one second.
People are shooting.
So hold on, one second. You just said.
Okay.
Me and my family are safer.
I said we feel safer.
Okay, and so I'm asking you the question: how are you safer? Then you referenced a wall. A wall hasn't been built.
And it hasn't been built. And so let me.
So how is a non-existent wall making you safer?
Is that he is making waves in terms of trying to keep America safe and keeping America first. And for me, that's important.
No. Again, hold up. I'm asking again, how? I don't want a phrase.
Right.
I want an actual example. How?
He said when he the wall, or he wanted to keep America safe. In doing so, he's been trying to make strides of doing that. But you can't, things don't happen automatically, and you do have to work towards certain things. And so I do understand that.
Like when he said Mexico was going to pay for it, and they're not paying for it, American taxpayers are paying for it.
Right.
When I also think about African Americans, you talk about being safe. I think about also African Americans being safe from police departments. And when the Attorney General of the United States actually stands before cops on multiple occasions and saying, we're going to do away with these consent decrees. When he came in and immediately tried to do away with the consent decree in Baltimore, a consent decree the city of Baltimore agreed with and the police department agreed with, and the federal judge smacked his hand down. He went to outside of Chicago a few weeks ago, gave a speech saying that these consent decrees have hurt the morale of cops. He did not say a single word about the people, how they have been impacted by these cops. How has that? You keep talking about jobs. You keep saying jobs. I need somebody who is a Republican to explain to me how can somebody talk about jobs who in his budget wants to eliminate the National Minority Supplier Development Council. It's in his budget. They want to eliminate all those offices. Second of all, this administration also has made it hard for black-owned businesses to even get contracts because under Obama, they broke the contracts down into smaller contracts. The same thing Mayor Jackson did in Atlanta when he became mayor in 1973, and black people had 0.0012%, which is 10 cents of every $100 of every contract. What did Trump do? He came in and actually bundled them back together, making it harder for black folks to actually access those contracts. When Secretary Betsy DeVos has 4 private colleges off the hook and allowed them to come back in when the Obama administration was removing them from access to dollars. That's to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which significantly increased the number of black people who actually have, for the first time, health insurance. Not only that, what has this man done for criminal justice reform, which I'm still waiting to see? And then he said, hey, we'll take it up after the election. What has this man done when it came to the issue of voter suppression? And we've seen in North Carolina, in Florida, in Mississippi, in Alabama, when the Obama administration, on their side, they sided with the plaintiffs when there was a voter ID case in Texas. 5 different judges said it was racially discriminatory as the Trump administration on the Jeff Sessions came in and sided with Texas. Please explain to me, with all of that, I've given you at least 8 examples of help black folks.
I think he's probably closer to black unity than we've been in about 40 years. Donald Trump is a hateful...
And another thing.
Yeah, I mean, Donald Trump is a hateful, lying, mentally ill, xenophobic con artist. And he, if nothing else, everything you listed, Roland, of course, is factual evidence. Let's just look at the intangibles. When you stand in a crowd in Mississippi and mock a white woman, when you talk about.
I don't agree with that.
No, it's not a matter. It's not a matter of agreeing. I don't know. Where did you go? I don't know. One beer. No. He lied. The only thing he said, the only thing she remembered was having one beer. That's not only a bald-faced lie. I'm not going to say he's a liar in that regard because the man is mentally ill. At that point, he's playing to his base. His base is white supremacists. He has staffed his cabinet and his staff with white supremacists. Stephen Miller should have no business in the city of Washington, D.C. or around any decent human being. His xenophobic policies, they are trying to make America again, as it were ever. But when he was laughed at last week, that was in part because he has started this trade skirmish, to use Warren Buffett's, he says it's not a war yet. Pick on China. You know what China did? China began to identify his little redneck racist friends in the United States Congress, like Paul Ryan from Janesville, Wisconsin, and Senator Mitch McConnell, and they said, let's target bourbon. Let's target cranberries. The Chinese are going to eviscerate the American economy if they get a chance. And if you look at the map, there was one in the New York Times today, the communities that are going to be hurt the most are the ones that voted for Donald Trump.
Scott, this is the same administration. It's the same administration. It's the exact same administration that targeted Black Lives Matter activists and actually did away with the budget to monitor white supremacists in this country, individuals who have been targeting people of color. When you've had white folks in the Midwest and white have Donald Trump has a hate and how any of that benefits black people.
Well, it certainly doesn't. But if you look at the rhetoric of the Klansmen, of the Nazis, of white supremacists, come on, Scott, and you look at the rhetoric of Donald Trump, as well as many in his administration, that rhetoric, they mirror one another. It's right out of the handbook of the Ku Klux Klan. That's right. But more importantly, the deeper and dark damage done to this country by Donald Trump lies in him giving license to those who don't look like me. That's right. Being comfortable, bringing it mainstream, their hate speech in regard to people of color, their not even dog whistles that we hear, their direct rhetoric of scaring their constituency. It's all based on fear that people of color are taking their jobs, even though he claims that he's been a great job creator for people of color, black and brown, but he's brought it mainstream, people of color, just based on his rhetoric.
Again,
Again, there wouldn't be those attacks without his rhetoric.
Here's the deal, Dee. I operate in facts. Okay. I operate in facts. And if you can list a number of different things, that's fine. But when every time this administration, all they say is, oh, look how tough black people. Let's look at the unemployment rate, as if that's the only thing that black people actually pay attention to. There are other issues that we care about that impact us in a much greater way. And again, I'm still trying to see it. I'm trying to see it when this administration has had to fire or force folks to resign repeatedly who have had racist commentary on radio, on blogs, and in print, who have worked for this administration in commerce, in housing, in the White House. They had to force out a speechwriter who was in the West Wing, who was attending a conference, sitting right next to a white supremacist, and they said was right. You got Miller, who Spencer, white supremacist, who I interviewed, who said that was my mentor when I was at Duke University. I'm just still trying to understand. Please show me the body of evidence. I will gladly cite it, repeat it, and investigate it. But if I can show you in housing, in health care, in education, in fiscal policy, when it comes to even our businesses, and let's all remind you, National Minority Supply Development Council was created by Richard Nixon, a Republican. Republicans are allowing this man to eviscerate an office that actually is the only federal office designed to help minority businesses start businesses. What has he done for black people that I can actually look at and say it's factually correct?
I'm a small business owner myself. Small business optimization is higher.
Hold on, no. Define that. What do you mean it's higher?
It means that in small businesses, and create and build my business through the National Minority Supplier Development.
He wants to get rid of it.
And his daughter just met with the new president, Adrian, a couple of weeks ago.
No. Hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second. There are 2.6 million black-owned businesses in America. Right. 2.5 million have one employee. 7 years ago, we had 1.9 million black-owned businesses, 1.8 million one employee. 7 years ago, we had 1.9 million black-owned businesses that had an average annual revenue of $110,000. Now that we have 700,000 more black-owned businesses, they have an annual revenue of $54,000, cut in half. So please tell me what the hell has been optimized?
What I'm saying is that from where I'm seating, and what I've seen, I feel as though for Bass Public Affairs and for other businesses, things have gotten better. We've been able to actually communicate. We've been able to. We've been able to actually grow our business.
Okay, here's the deal.
But in regards to what you were saying earlier, that
does your
firm
serve conservative interest? Hold on. Does your firm serve conservative interest?
Yes.
Okay. Of course your doors are open because you got a Republican who's the president.
But not just conservative interests. We
might be more.
Let me answer you. No, wait a minute. A basic question. We are a Christian-based business, so we will do business with anyone whose views are in line with ours. So we're not going to say no, we're not going to assist, or no, we're not going to help or market someone because they're whatever. But if their views are in line with ours, then yes, we will work with them.
But here's my point. I don't see the evidence in a variety of areas.
With Donald Trump,
I mean, let's take our pick. No. Let's take our pick. Okay. Hold up. Let me go by department.
Yeah.
Where's the evidence in housing?
Well, he's raising rents.
No. Where's the evidence in commerce? Where's the evidence in DOD? Where's the evidence in Interior? Where's the evidence in the SBA?
Are you asking all of us?
Where's the evidence? Anybody. Where's the evidence in the VA?
We know one thing. He has deregulated.
Where's the evidence? Where's the evidence in state?
It's in the opposite direction.
All I'm saying, just please offer me.
Right.
Offer me even a hint of evidence.
I just got one question. Okay. Do you feel, as a conservative, an obligation to defend the Trump administration?
No, and that's
then you don't have to defend it. But I would say that.
What I'm saying
because
is
they hijacked, I think, what people might consider conservatives.
Neither myself nor my sister nor anybody at Bass Public Affairs, we will never say that everything that the president says or does is correct.
Now that's important.
And
that's important because the Republican Party has been hijacked by Donald Trump. So in other words, when I see an orange
hat, and that is a problem with the fact that conservatives will co-sign everything the president does, and you can't do that. And I would never do that.
This is what's missing from this dialogue.
Scott, go ahead. Final comment before I got to bring in my next question.
So I will say yes, I agree, or no, I don't agree. And like when you said earlier in regards to him mocking the president, horrible things that he's done and said are absolutely wrong.
Wrong when this man is called shitty countries that people look like us.
You're absolutely right.
But what is missing, and what would help Donald Trump, hold on, what's missing, which all of those departments, there could have been a positive answer to that, but he has no urban agenda. And remember, what he said before, he said, what do you have to lose? He talked about the unemployment rate, the violence rate, and yet he hasn't invested in the killing fields of Chicago. Exactly. And that was always his best example.
Because he uses Chicago at every point, but he hasn't even done that.
So when does the agenda, when do we get his urban agenda?
It don't exist. All right.